is I advise my clients of the risks involved in what they want to do, and then ultimately the client makes the decision of whether the risk is acceptable and what they want to do or not. So if it's going to be 6 people that you know in your house and you're all comfortable, you may not want to do that. But if maybe it's 1 guy you know and 4 people you don't, you may want to. But that's up for you to decide.
And I don't think there's any such thing as a risk-free environment, legally or otherwise. All you can do is do risk reduction. And the release form really is a risk reduction. Every attorney will tell you that you can pierce the veil of almost everything if you have a really aggressive attorney, but it certainly does reduce the risk. And it's another reason why invite parties are great, because you tend to know the players pretty well. So the likelihood that you're going to have someone challenging you legally or doing something stupid because you don't know how they play is far less. So another reason I'm big on invite parties.
Right, you can sign a release with somebody and they consent to do suspension bondage. All right, they consented for you to tie them up and hang them above the floor, but I guarantee you they did not release you or expect that you were going to drop them on their head. You know, if that happens. So, it goes so far. And it's, something is better than nothing.
I'm going to go through the headings that are in the checklist just because I think we have limited time, and I want to at least make sure that we, at a high level, talk about everything that one would consider when one is going to have a play party of any kind, of any size. I talked about motivation. What is your motivation? Why? Type of play party. I talked about that. Big, small, invite only, etc. Organizers. Who's going to organize it? Are you going to have helpers if it's big, etc. Guests. Who do you want to invite? The most important part of any party is the guest list, just like a dinner party. It can sometimes take one clunker. One clunker at a party. One overly drunk person. One person who screams just too fucking loud. I mean, it just takes one person to wreck it. So knowing your players really makes a difference. Invitations and follow-up. Notice the follow-up part. Don't just send out an invitation and assume that everybody's going to see it and it's on their to-do list to respond to you. No. We get a lot of invitations from all over. Follow-up. Repeated emails, Facebook invites, one-on-one connections, however you do it, but follow up. Substances. Make a decision about substances at your party and stick to it. If it's a no-substance party, period, good. If it's going to have beer, poppers, stick to it. But whatever it is, stick to it, stick to your rules, and stick to your guns when it comes to that. Play space. Do you need to rent a play space? I really do recommend people think outside the box and not assume you've got to rent some big space to have a good party.
Just one thing on substances. The other thing is also figure out the age range of the people that you want. Our parties are open to people 18 years of age and older. So we don't allow any substances at all. Besides that, we did make the decision early on to set the level of expectations that people play substance-free, and there are concessions that you make on that. I mean, we know that people stop around the corner at Cock and have a cocktail or two and come to the party, or somebody will stop on the sidewalk and have a hit off a joint because you'll smell it when they come in. People may do a bump at home before they come. We're not so naive to think that that doesn't happen, but we've never had to turn anybody away at the door. So setting a level of expectations of what you expect of people and also enforcing that will help everybody play on the same level playing field.
And by having that out there, you have a discussion point with anybody who's at the party who doesn't fit it. I was having a party with a friend of mine. We had about 70 guys there. And there was a guy there that was brought by a friend. They asked could they bring him. And sure enough, they were high as a kite. Stunningly gorgeous, but high as a kite. And at one point, he walked up to me and he apologized to me. He goes, you know what? I'm too high for your party. I read your invite and I know what it says. And I said, you know what? I have a lot of respect for you for that. Sit down there, get yourself sober over the next hour, hour and a half, see how you feel. You're being respectful. You're not being an ass. And he kind of came down and he says, okay, I'm okay. I can play and I'm safe and I don't feel like I'm high anymore. It gives you a discussion point where if you don't have it out there, they can never claim, I didn't know. So.
And a good way to handle stuff like that, especially if somebody came with somebody else, or you know the person that you've observed is knows other people, is if you don't feel comfortable as a party host approaching that person, go to a friend and ask the friend to approach. It gets you out of the hot seat, and it also puts them in, it's like peer pressure. It's not the principal calling you into the office. It's peer pressure, and that works.
The next item on the checklist is music, which sounds trivial, but it's not. It's one of my bones of contention about some play parties. I was at a play party in Dallas, and I walk into this massive warehouse space, and they had spent days building equipment, not just bringing it in, but building it. It was for a big event, and they were playing a rock and roll station with commercials. I am not kidding you. This was a big event in Dallas. Maybe 400 people attending. Rock and roll. First of all, vocals and play often don't go together. That's a taste thing, I know, but often non-vocals. And you can even canvass your guests. If you're going to have 20 people, what kind of music do you like to play? And see if you can accommodate that, within reason. If they say rock and roll with commercials, I'd say no. But it's a really important thing. Music can set a tone, pardon the pun, for a play party. I think it's really important to think long and hard about it and not make it a cursory event. I'm lucky that my partner is a DJ partner, sort of devotee, and he puts together quite great music. But you can get somebody to do it. Dimitri's here somewhere, great DJ. Somewhere.
I played with somebody once who wanted to have a local country and western station. Yeah. And there was another one I used to go to his house to play, and all he played was Frank Sinatra for a fisting party. And so one evening I showed him. I took over my Dean Martin collection. I never got invited back.
That's funny. I love it. That's great. The other thing about music, and I've talked to a lot of people who dissect people's sexualities, when they play to a certain kind of music on a regular basis, and then they go somewhere else and it's different kinds of music, their sexuality doesn't resonate somehow. So, does anybody remember when the Passion of the Christ CD came out, and every dungeon had Passion of the Christ over and over and over? And my dick used to get hard the moment I heard the CD, because I had just heard it so many times. So I had this connection. So music can be powerful.
And remember that the music that you play at a BDSM party is different than the music you play for a fisting party. The two really don't mix well.
Yeah, or a sex party, same thing.
Yeah.
You can play much higher energy if people are mostly going to be fucking or whatever, as opposed to BDSM. It's a very kind of different vibe musically. If you go to a bathhouse and you hear boom, boom, boom music sometimes, you can fuck to that. But you can't necessarily flog to it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I've done a kind of a playlist for the hellhole parties, and one night a Celine Dion song came through. There was a collective moan through the over to the iPod to turn that off.
Oh, that's scary.
That would be the one you'd want to play at the end of the night to make people leave.
That's a good point. I like that. Food and beverages. Food doesn't always go well with play parties. It sometimes does. It sometimes. Fisting parties and lots of food, I don't know. That's my own thing, Larry. It's just water, yes. Lots of food, I'm not sure.
Finger food.
Finger food. He writes all the jokes for us.
Everything is individually wrapped. There's nothing you can stick your hand into and wrap.
That's a really good point, yeah. Everything is in wrappers. That's a really good point.
Everything is individually wrapped.
That's a really good point. Safer sex supplies. Kind of a no-brainer, but again, you want to have them available, you want to have them easy access, and we all know what those are, and if you really can't afford condoms, you can almost always find somebody in this town to give you lots of condoms. Same thing with dams and some other things. So you can almost always find them.
And they're cheap online. And just one word about paper towels, because I'm a little anal about this. When you, I got the pun-rich side of this. Look for, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're fisting or doing BDSM play. Find paper towels that each roll is individually wrapped. Okay? Do that. Don't go to the ones that you take it out and they're all naked. Because, you know, I'm really big about cross-contamination on paper towels. You set paper towels on the floor, which is a big no-no. Don't do that. You contaminate the whole roll. If you pick it all up, you contaminate the whole roll. We put paper towels at our close check. And our close check is trained that anybody who needs a new roll gets them, but the close check guy makes the guy go wash his hands first, you know, and then he comes back and gets a fresh roll of paper towels. So be aware of that. That's a real good way to cut down on cross contamination.
Party rules. None of us like rules, but for bigger parties, you have to have them. For a small, intimate gathering in your home, you can just tell everybody. Please don't smoke in my house. Go out there. Do whatever it might be. Whether it's play rules, meaning how we play in this space, whether it's how we interact, whether it's about sound and not speaking. It's one of my other things is people having conversations in play spaces when other people are playing. It really is annoying. So set your rules, stick to them, and publish them or send them or email them well ahead of the party. Don't pop them on people at the party. Make sure they know ahead of time.
Really, and this is really, I think, one of the most important things that you do, and the biggest thing you miss if you don't do, is set expectations. Set your standards in advance. If you put your expectations and your standards out there, people, most of them, 99%, will honor them. But if you don't put them out and you just assume that people are going to do stuff, you'll be disappointed and people will get pissed off. People get, you know, I take flack because we do safer sex, drug-free, you know, and that's okay. The people who have to be spun out to play don't come. People who like to be spun out to play but want to come will tone it down and come to our party to play. So set expectations and set your standards and let people know just like they say.
And stick to them.
Yeah.
Release forms. We talked about release forms. We're at about the 10-minute mark, so I want to barrel through this last, so in case we can take a couple of questions. One trick, there's a release form in the PDF that you can use as a model. One trick I do is that I email my invitations and I attach a PDF of the release form. So if they walk in the door with a signed release form, they just walk up the stairs or walk in. I don't even check, because I know if they've got a signed release form, they got an invitation. I don't have to check a list, I don't have to check their name, nothing. So it's a trick that I do for the parties that I run. It makes the front door go really fast. About 80% of the people walk in with signed release forms. So that can help. And also have some there to sign in case they forget. Last three things, volunteers or hired help, especially for bigger parties. You're going to absolutely want them. And what do they do? Again, set expectations. What are you volunteering for? What are you not volunteering for? Can you play or not during it while you're volunteering, etc. Clothes check. We talked about that. Every kinky party's favorite thing for clothes check is big garbage bags, because you can put everything in it, attach a number to it. I tend to like writing the number on the person, so that the number of their bag is on them.
And this doesn't work at my party.
Oh, that's... It's smudge.
Sometimes this doesn't work either.
The last thing on the checklist is something that... See, I told you, he writes all the jokes for us. The last thing is something that many people don't think about, but I do at all my parties, and it's called starter scenes. When you have a bigger party, let's say 50 people come in, or you're expecting 50 people, and they walk into this blank space, who wants to dive in first? He does. But if you're not a major pig, that's a compliment, dude. But no, most people don't want to be the first out there on the floor playing. I usually ask 3 or 4 partnered people or people who will partner up, saying, would you be willing to come early and begin playing right away? I actually arrange that ahead of the party, so that when people walk in, there's people playing. And they feel like they can dive in because they're not the first. I think that's a really important thing, because you will waste, for a 4-hour play party, you will waste the first hour, hour and a half, because nobody wants to start to dive in. So that's the end of that checklist. It's a very long checklist, but...
I know somebody who always, the host, started to play every time.
There you go. Well, I'm all for that.
That's one of the things that we didn't talk about, though, was it's your party. Make sure that you make time for you to have fun. Because it's so easy to get so wrapped up in organizing, setting up, getting people there, getting everything. And then by the time that happens, you're tired, or you feel so responsible trying to make sure that everybody else is having fun that you forget to. I didn't play at all for a year when I started doing this. And I was like, gosh, come on. And, it's like, okay, but make sure you have fun.
I won't organize a play party if I'm not playing at it. That's just the golden rule for me. And part of it is that if I don't play at it, I'm going to lose the passion for it, and I'm not going to want to do it anymore. And that's, for me, I'm one of those people with all the other stuff that I do in the scene, the play is the thing. And that's what I really believe in. And we've only got like 5 minutes, so should we open it up to questions? If anybody has questions?
Just really quick, you mentioned about sending out a PDF with a release form. What do you do if people start forwarding it to other people?
It's never happened. I mean, we asked them not to. You're right. I mean, theoretically, it could happen. Admittedly, most of the parties that I do, I know 95% of the guys at least somewhat. So when they walk in the door, I'm pretty sure. And so it's really it's about being expeditious and not wasting time at a table lined up, checking names and stuff. So, but you're absolutely right. So maybe having it signed, but still checking a name at a big party where you don't know people would still speed it up faster, rather than having to take the time to do the form. So that's a good point.
Back on your 9 points of leadership, I think there's one more, and that would be always be willing to do whatever you would ask somebody else to do.
That's a good point. For the video, always be willing to do whatever you ask other people to do. I think that's a really good point. That's a good leadership point. So 10 points.
We like 10-point points.
Other questions? Other comments? Who's been to a play party? Raise your hand. Who's hosted a play party? Who wants to host a play party? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I think we can probably wrap this portion.
Thank you both very much. What we'd like to do next is give a little toast to our friend Race, who can be flying off tomorrow to receive the NJLTF Change in Leadership Award. Is that what it's called, Race? Creating Change. Yes. We're going to be trying to get some champagne, and before I do that, I'm going to bring Patrick up to talk a little bit more about that. I just wanted to say thank you again to our sponsors, the Leather Alliance, and to Folsom Street Events for making this space and the social so thank you guys very much. Normally, we ask you to do that tonight. I will say that we do have donation buckets that will be there on your way out, and if you feel so inclined to keep supporting us, go right ahead. But tonight was covered thanks to their generosity. So thank you very much, and I'm going to bring Patrick up. Thank you all for coming.
This was Eric's first program that he led by himself. There was no program we could have done this year without it. I think you'll be seeing a lot less of me this year and more of him. And that will be, he'll be around. And that will be all to the good. Eric keeps referring to himself as a newbie, but in terms of man hours he put into the leather community, you got to count every one of his years like dog years. Like, yeah, like puppy years. Anyway,
years old.
He did a great job, yes?
Yes.
And one day, when you grow up and become a big leather man like Race, you'll be getting this great big award that he's getting. I'm like, Race is such a buddy, but now I'm like totally impressed by you to be getting this award. I mean, there's no national leather award or recognition that even approaches this one in distinction, except for maybe International Mr. Leather. And speaking of International Mr. Leather, do I see Joe Gallagher back there? Yes, Joe, come on up for a minute. Do you have something to say to our friend Race on the occasion of his receiving this award?
So, I'm the bad host at Race's party. I'm the one that shows up right when the doors open. I'm terrible. I leave early because I'm too tired. But there's a lot. There's a bajillion actual horrifying leather awards that are, most of them meaningless. And we'd love to carve something on a piece of glass and say this means something. But for Race, I think it's really vital. Like his history in what we do goes back so long. I think you were involved in taking us out of the diagnostic manual. Yeah. Getting SM and stuff out of the DSM, and amazing stuff that's made a difference in your lives, whether you know it or not. And normally when we're talking about people who are getting awards, we don't talk about anybody with any humility at all. Like none. Okay? But Race leads by example, and quietly, he just makes things happen. He just makes the right stuff go. I'm often sort of at a loss. We have so many political things here in San Francisco. Like, are naked guys good? Are naked guys bad? And I don't like them in my shop, because then we have to wipe the chairs down. But, the freedom to do that, I think, is really awesome. And I generally find myself following Race's lead. And I think if we really look at people who know him well, if we really look at what we do, we probably often will follow Race's lead. And more than any award, more than any public accolade, the amount of small decisions that are made and big decisions made all the time based on I think, this is what I will do because I've seen Race do it, or this is what I would do because I know that's what Race would do. And I think that's the highest award we can give him is to take him into consideration when we're making our decisions, because you'll make the right decision. So everybody could raise their glass to one of the finest men I know, Race Bannon.
Yeah. Thank you, Race.
And if you don't have a glass and you want something non-alcoholic, will you raise your hand now?
Yes, we do have some non-alcoholic options. Daniel has some over here. Catherine still has some. Lyle has some over there. John has some over there. If you still need a non-alcoholic option, raise your hand.
We do have seconds if you want double dip.
Yeah, we do have plenty of extras if you want to double dip. There we go.
We have, I think I see the founder and former owner of the Pleasure Dome and Club Universe, and now one of our entertainment commissioners, Audrey Joseph, back there. Audrey, would you like to say a few words?
It is true. I'm on the entertainment commission, and our guys will find you $2,500. Joe, you said a lot of good things and stuff stole some of my words, and coming here, I think I'm going to write some notes so I don't forget what I want to say about you. And then I couldn't do that. And then I was thinking of something funny or embarrassing. But when I think of Race Bannon, I think of a guy with a lot of integrity, who has a diverse outlook of ideas. It's not just about the naked man, and it's not just about BDSM or any of those. It's about politics in general. It's about spiked heels, if you follow him on Facebook. And Joe's right. Race has a quiet, strong, solid, cemented point of view. He has a lot of balls. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. He's not afraid of the outcomes. And he's someone who I respect and honor very much. And creating change is an important conference. People from all over the country go there, the heads of all prides, and everyone go there. To get that award is really something special. They could be giving it to a better guy. You're welcome.
Larry, you worked a lot with Ray. Make a toast.
Rose.
Oh, let me sit down. One day, Race and I were having lunch down at Harvey's in the Castro. You know, Race and his phone are not too very far removed from one another, and the notification went off on his phone, and he goes, "Oh, Pete just responded to one of my tweets." Oh, okay. He goes, "You know, the singer." I said, "Yeah, I know, yeah." And 2 years ago, Race and I did the program that we did tonight at Leather Leadership Conference in Los Angeles. So being down in LA, we decided to drive. And so, you know, I'd known Race for a while, and Mario was with us. And, you know, we were just looking at spending 7 hours in a car together. And we're trying to figure out, you know, is this going to be a good trip or not? And by the time we went down there, because we took a jaunt over to Palm Springs back to San Francisco, in the 16 hours that the three of us spent in the car together, there was probably a sum total of 5 minutes of dead air. And in the evenings, Race and I shared a room at the hotel. And we would go up at night and get ready for bed, and we would sit there on our beds, and campfire would light, and we'd sit there and talk for, I don't know, 2.5 hours every evening before we would go to bed. And one of the things you come to realize when you're at a place like Leather Leadership Conference with Race is that you're the other guy in the room. You just can't go from here to there without stopping 15 times and being introduced all over the place. And that's one of the amazing things, I think, about Race is how many people that he does know and who know him and think of him fondly. As a matter of fact, a friend of his, Jack, was telling me about getting into talking with Race about people that they knew. And there was a challenge that was thrown down that Jack would throw out some names of people who were from San Francisco or related to San Francisco in some way, and they'd find out if Race knew them. So the first one was Tom Amiano. And Race goes, "Oh, that's not even hard." You know, and so Jack says, "Let's go up to Sacramento and you can introduce me." So you just prove that you know Tom. So they drive up to Sacramento in Jack's car because Race doesn't drive. And they go to Tom's office. They walk in, the receptionist says, "Oh, hi Race, Tom's here, he can see you now." Jack says, "Okay, that was way too easy. Let's try Gavin Newsom." Race goes, "Look, Gavin put me on a commission. I know Gavin well. Let's just walk across the road and We'll see if Devin's here. So they go in, the same thing. Receptionist says, immediately recognizes Race, throws open the door, Gavin's there, comes around from his desk, gives him a big hug. Jack's like, all right, look, we're going to make this a little harder. Diane Feinstein. Race goes, knew her when she was mayor, worked with her for years. All right, Jack says, my private jet, we're going to Washington, D.C. Let's see. So they go into the Rayburn office building in Washington, D.C. They walk in, the receptionist, Mr. Bannon, let me see if the senator is here. And within 2 minutes, they're in Diane's office talking about old times. All right, here, Jack says, all right, fine. All right, Nancy Pelosi, the most important, powerful woman, and even if she's here, she won't see you. Wrong. So Jack says, all right, this is my last bullet. The Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama. Got it fucked up now. Amazingly, Race had gone on retreat with the Dalai Lama back So Jack says, all right, fire up the jet, Captain. We're going off to Tibet. So they go to the temple where the Dalai Lama was holding services with the monks. And Ray says, hang on, Jack. Let me go see if the Dalai Lama's here. I'll be right back. So he walks around behind the altar, finds the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama says, look, I'm getting ready to do services here with the monks. Why don't you come out and sit next to me? And then when I'm done, we can go meet your friend. So he's sitting there next to the Dalai Lama, and Race looks out over the group of monks who are sitting there, and his buddy Jack is just sitting there with his head in his hand, shaking his head violently. So very, very upset. After the service was over, Race goes down and says, Jack, what's wrong? He said, you know, all those other people you knew, I could figure. But when the monk sitting next to me leaned over and says, who's that guy up there with Race? It was just Grace, thank you for not only starting the conversation, but for keeping it going.
Before we go much further, there is more alcohol, and you are required to finish it off before we leave the room, please.
Okay.
Grace, did that really happen? I just remembered that somebody very important to you wanted to be here. Everything okay, guys? Oh, okay. And couldn't. And he was going to, but his sister got sick. And that is your friend, Mark Frazier. So he asked me to read this message to you. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I could not be there. I'm sorry I could not be here to help celebrate the 2013 recipient of the NGLTS Leather Leadership Award for one of the most deserving men in our lives. Race has been a pioneer in our community for a long time. He has dedicated his life to creating change, quote unquote, and perceptions within the LGBT communities. On a personal note, Race, you have been somebody I have always looked up to and admired. I think you would say admired. You are one of a few who I put on my personal mentor pedestal, and you have never tumbled off it. I count you as one of my closest, dearest, wisest friends. Thanks for everything you have done and continue to do to make our lives better. This award could not have gone to anybody more deserving. Bask in the glow of being acknowledged for all your hard work, but remember you still have lots to do. Love you, your friend, Mark Frazier. Well, just so you don't think you're too hot shit, we have somebody more important in the room than a Leather Leadership Award winner, a former Empress of San Francisco, and indefatigable fundraiser, recipient of many, many awards and honors, the ever generous, ever funny, ever gracious Donna Sachet would like to say a couple of things.
I'm just glad the lights were out when that was going on earlier. I was blushing several times. If you come to my parties, you do not have to sign a consent form. I don't even have to know you. I leave the door open. But Race and I are probably the most uncommon friends, and I've known him and he's known me for a while, but in the last couple of years we've gotten to know each other better, and I just count myself lucky. I don't know why I'm up here, because most of you know him so much better personally. So I had to go to the internet to see who he was. I looked at, and he doesn't even have a Wikipedia account. So Wikipedia, I did find some other Race Bannons, though. Do you know there's one that he was the trainer to the Johnny Quest cartoon?
Yep.
That's not you, is it? And then there's another guy who was he posed as an Interpol agent for years and got away with it and then finally got caught in 2006. That wasn't you. Then there's an American noise punk band from Indiana. If you go to their website, first of all, you have to turn the music down because it's just horrible. And the opening picture, I guess they're also a band and a cooking school because there's a mirror with a lot of flowers spread on it. That's not you. So I thought I'd go to Facebook. Everybody goes to Facebook. I found Facebook. You have an entry there or an account. 3,800 some friends. Now it started to sound like the person I knew. And then all this tech stuff, being like the highest tech stuff, most of which I couldn't understand what it was. And then pictures of men doing things, most of which I couldn't understand either. But that was my friend Race. Finally, I found your quote that's on there, and I think it's really very telling. Everybody's supposed to, you're supposed to put a quote on Facebook on your personal page. And this quote meant a lot to me, and I thought I'd wrap it up with that. Sarah Caldwell said, "Learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anywhere you can, anyone you can. There will always come a time when you will be grateful that you did. Thanks for being my friend. I'm still learning from you, and I plan to learn a lot more." Gary.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You heard the guy, we gotta finish. It's funny, but when I see Donna Sachet, I think of that guy who, he retired from, he was a former IML also, but he retired from doing leather events about 5 leather events ago that I saw him at. Lenny Broberg, are you here? You were having a Peggy Lee retirement, and we're happy to bring you out of it.
Thank you. You know, when we started, Audrey and Joe stole some of my material. Donna stole my new jacket. So I got nothing left, right? Actually, what many of you, some of you in this room probably were there. In 1992, there were a lot of anti-gay initiatives all over the country. And in 1993, there was a march on Washington. And the organizers there wanted 1 million gay people there. What they didn't want was the leather people there.
That's right. We were there anyway.
Oh, believe me, were we? We had to fight for our place at the table. Some of us did it loudly. Tala did it with a whip as we were marching down the street.
Hey, Tala.
And if any of you know Tala Brandeis, she has a long bullwhip. But over the years, what has happened is the rest of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and the rest of the alphabet soup that we call our community have recognized the contributions of the leather community. We have been at the forefront of educating people. We have been at the forefront of raising money. We have been at the forefront of taking care of our community. And that is one of the things that Race does so well, but he does it quietly. And when I look at someone like Race, because I've been around for a few years, I actually went to the Gold Coast when he was bartending. I was only 10, but... I was a little guy in the corner, you know? Yeah.
Did he argue?
Yes. I didn't stay long, I only went once. But what happened is you look at someone like Grace, and then you look at his two partners, Mike and Jim. And I knew them both when they had darker hair and had hair. But you look at the changes and the contributions that he has made, whether it's been quietly or... How many of you have been to Race's bar on Facebook and have found out about things? It has an effect on people. And when people were raising their hands, what I found interesting is one of the things that we always talked about in our community is how do we bridge between the men and the women? How do we bridge between the old guard and the new guard and right guard? And how do we bridge between, you know, the younger people, the community? And when I look around this room, we have women. We have men. We have older. We have some really old ones like us. And then we have some young. And what you see are the efforts of people like Grace being recognized for their contributions, not just to the community here, but recognizing, because Race is actually the face and one of the points of contact for the San Francisco community and the Bay Area community. And it shows how vibrant we are, and he is representative of all of us. Because I've heard Race say on occasion, it's not about him. He is the person he is from what he gets from everybody that is around him. So to Mike and Jim, I say thank you so much for supporting him all these years, because he's made some incredible changes, and he has made life so much easier for some of the young people that are coming behind us. And he's made a big difference for the new people that are coming into the community and questioning, and he's made it okay. I'll talk to you about naked guys later, though. Swear to God. But the whole thing is that the best thing about Race, and this was one of the things that I've always appreciated about you, is you have never apologized for who you were. You've never made excuses for anything that you have ever said and done. And you have always done things for the right reasons with the community at heart. So thank you for that.
And maybe we should hear from those two guys who trip over Race's dirty underwear for the last how many years? 17? Yeah.
Or 16.
16. Going on 17.
16 going on 17.
We're not the speakers. Race is the speaker in our family. So, you know, be kind. I've known this man for 17 years, after we've been together 16. I met him the first day I actually moved to San Francisco. I'd been here for an hour. In the shower at, what do they call it, muscle system, dripping wet. And he hands me his card and says, me and my lover find you incredibly attractive and we'd like to take you home. And I thought, San Francisco is so cool. Talking to them, however, for about 20 minutes, I decided, these guys are assholes. Because he was Race Bannon, and I was like Jim Knight thinking, Race Bannon, that was a cartoon character. And he was Mike Pierce, full of piercing from about top to bottom. And then they told me they were from LA. I had just moved here from San Diego and thought, they're LA phonies. He's Race Bannon because God knows what that is. He's Mike Pierce because he's pierced up and down. And so I ripped up their card and threw it away. Luckily, over the next year, we had mutual friends, and we became closer and closer and closer, and I realized that these are real guys, these are their real names, We fell in love. And I still remember the day when we were at the Cove Cafe, and Race looked across at me, and I knew I was having feelings for them. And I looked across, and the look Race gave me, I knew they were having feelings for me. And it's been one of those magical moments I'll never forget. And being with this man for 16 years was one of those magical things that only happens to people once in a lifetime. I mean, both these men have been everything to me. They've made me a better person. You know, Race is one of those people who you cannot be around and not learn something from. He's incredibly, he has so much energy. I mean, he talked about not wanting to do so much, but if he didn't, he'd be bored. And he complained, and we're like, Race, go do something. Go organize a party, whatever. You know, he's one of those people who I thank the universe every day that this man is in my life. Both of these men, don't get me wrong. But
It's fine.
has totally changed my life, and I love him so much. And the fact that he got this award, I couldn't believe it. I have to pass off.
All right. What he said. Again, I guess our first meeting was also at a gym. Funny how that happens. But yeah, I did spend a little more time, investigating Race, and after I first met him, and yeah, we didn't actually go on a first date until about 4 months later, because I had to do a little bit of a searching on him, and the internet didn't exist in the way it does now. And so, but everybody I talked to had really great things to say about him, and now I know why. I mean, 22 years later, yeah, people still have great things to say about you. There's nothing I can't disagree with. Everybody up here, said pretty much what I would want to say about you, and type A, 2 type Bs. What else is there to say? I mean, I love this man with all my heart, and I don't know what he sees in me, but I'm glad he sees it, so that's all I have to say.
Cheers. How close to time are we here? Oh, we're very close. Why don't I just ask them all to come up at once? I don't know. Your friend Frank Stoner really wanted to be here, but I don't know if he made it. Frank, are you here? No. Well, I'll read you his message some other time. Jesse Vancio, Mr. San Francisco Leather. Julian Marshburn, very close friend of Race's. Who else did we have here? We have Anna Damiani and Joshua Abado, district representatives for Senator Mark Leno, also a friend of Race's. And if I'm forgetting, did I forget anybody? No, I don't think so. Okay. So, you first. Oh.
So first of all, I wanted to say that I went to this class that Race taught for ACLC, which was exactly this class, is where I met you. And then recently, right after that, I threw a party for the Citadel. And I made it a, you got in cheaper if you were younger party. Because I like young guys. And I got bashed on the internet. And Race hit me up and he said, be you. And it's your party, you can do what you want. Just as a suggestion, if you make it a private party, you'll get less harassment. And I said, thank you. So then I ran for Mr. San Francisco Leather, and I got it. And Leland and Karina, my best friend, set up a board for them, for me to get interviewed for my IML contest. And so I learned everything about everybody that was on there. I made this list, I studied it, I showed up, and I recited everything, and they made me leave the room. I did it all. They made me leave the room. They said, "Would you come back and be you? Because you're good. You know, we don't want to hear, what everybody else knows about us." So, thank you very much for encouraging me to be me. I also went and Googled Grace's name, and then I hit up Mike on Facebook and said, "What can you tell me about it?" He's like, "They already asked me. You can't use my notes." Sort of. Thank you for encouraging me and everyone else to be ourselves, because sometimes we forget to do that.
So, Grace, welcome to This Is Your Life. First time I met Grace was actually at a Triangle Taekwondo dinner upstairs. Mike, thank you. And we got to talking, and I thought, this is an interesting guy, and some interesting folks. This is great. So then I got to know Grace more in the neighborhood, at the coffee shop, and then I found out not only is he a brilliant person, a great writer, a techie, but look at all that he has done. And it took meeting him several times and sitting and talking to him, he had been doing it. And that's the kind of person that Grace is. He didn't tout his accomplishments. In fact, he was very almost demure about it. Oh yeah, we did that in 1989 or whatever. It's beautiful the way you don't praise yourself or don't allow yourself to aggrandize yourself. But it's beautiful to see that LGLTF is waking up and decided to give you this award. And along with that, we bring some greetings from someone that you and I both know knows you, and you could walk into his office. And that is State Senator Mark Leno. And I have this certificate of recognition framed for you from Mark. Congratulations.
Can you introduce the hot guy next to you?
This is Joshua Abeta, and he is another district representative in Senator Leno's office. I believe he has business cards with him. See him after.
Open mic night here at the center. I am Julian Marshburn. I was honored enough to be here at Mr. San Francisco Leather in 2004. And as Lenny can tell you, we step aside, we do not step down here in San Francisco. So we continue to be a part of the community. I've been blessed in my history, personally, and in my leather history in San Francisco, to have some really wonderful men part of my life, the former Mr. Marcus. And shortly after Mr. Marcus passed, Grace kind of stepped into my life and has been very, very integral in being a sir to me, a friend. When I first found out I was HIV positive, he was one of the first people I came out to with that. and guided me through that very intense situation and through other things in my life, such as to just be able to have lunch with me when at my beck and call, really, and I'm so grateful for that, to just throw ideas about what's going on in life, what's going on in politics, to advice about my own personal life, even now to my new journey with my new boy and boyfriend, Corey, and to be a part of that as well. So I'm just really blessed to have you in my life. We're so lucky to have you here in San Francisco. The Leather community as a whole is just such a better place because you're in it, and the world in general. You are so deserving of this, and it's about fucking time. And I know you're going to continue to just keep wowing us, teaching us, and I can't wait to see where you take us together with you. So, congratulations.
Thank you. We also have a representative from our other sponsor here tonight, Folsom Street Events, Dimitri Marcianis, Executive Director of Folsom Street Events, who was waving at me like, please don't talk to me now. And Graylin Thornton, a previous winner of this award. Do you have anything to say on this august occasion?
Okay, I'll make this brief because it's getting late and we're already like way over time, I think. But I learned about race by learning from race. And what that means is Race's book, Learning the Ropes, was actually, and still is actually, on the syllabus for the Men of Discipline. I don't know if you know that or not. But it's one of the books that we've used to basically bring men into the fold of our little piece of the community. And so I didn't know really who you were in the 90s when I started. But I knew about you, and I was learning from you all the way back then. And it's not until this time around, coming back to San Francisco the second time, that I kind of got to know you and have had some really great conversations getting to know you and have found out how really fucking cool you are, actually. And that's really what this has been all about. How you've impacted me is just to see that as community leaders, people can be accessible and nice and outgoing and friendly, and that's the way you've taught me to take care of ourselves and each other. So thank you.
Yeah, I did.
This gentleman won the same award that I am up for this year in a previous year, and I'd like to a round of applause for him because I think that's
most of you don't know my partner. He doesn't like to come to these things, but he and Race are a good friend. They talk all the time, and whenever he wants me to do anything, see a movie, go to a museum, he says, well, Race says it's good. And I always end up going. It's like, well, okay, Race says it's good, I'll go do that. But one of the things that Race did that's probably my very favorite, he got people to hug for, what was it, 3, 4, 5? For 5 seconds. And this became a thing of his. So if you met someone in a bar or whatever, and you know how we do the hug with the pat on the back and we're done, we want to go away. Well, Ray said we need to do this for 5 seconds, and it became a thing. And so we'd hug people for 5 seconds. And one night at the bar, I was hugging a young boy, well, he wasn't that young. I was hugging this guy, and he started to whimper. And it was a weird thing, and he said, thank you, sir, afterwards. And I thought, God, that is so weird. But it was just that Ray taught me how to connect with this guy. And he connected with me for those 5 seconds. And I want to thank you for just bringing it into our lives that we need to hug and be close to people again.
Two, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you, Braylon. Thank you, all of you busy people who came out tonight to celebrate race, including our special guests Lenny and Audrey and Anna and Joshua and Joe.
And Donna and Joe.
And yes, and all of them. And we know you're very busy and you have a lot of demands on your time, and we're glad that you could make time. We would love to be with you to receive this award this coming weekend, but, you know, Atlanta, no. And it's going to seem like poor thanks to you to ask you to be conscious that we have to be out of the building at 10 o'clock. So thank you for being here for this program. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Race. Race, I think we have the kind of vibrant, mutually supportive, united, more often than not, community that we have. In large measure because of you. I mean, people come into this community, they think, who's in charge, who's the boss, who's the one to look up to, and it's you. What kind of a great fucking role model is that? And I am so personally glad that you lured me up to your hotel room under false pretenses all those years ago.